The desert night presses down, vast and endless, as lightning bug stars drift silently above the dunes. Beneath the unbroken sky, a lone figure stands on a sandy ridge. He is tall and poised the weight of a nation etched on his scarred face. This is General Ibrahim Traoré, the man who dared to dream a different destiny for Africa. Somewhere deep below the ground at this very moment, buried beneath the Sahelian sands, the earth hums with secrets, hidden from satellites and drones. A vast underground complex thrums like a living organism. The wind lifts sand particles into dimly lit eddies around Traoré's boots. He breathes in the dry air, tasting the faint metallic tang of the machines that lie beneath. Pockets of light glow softly on the satellite display in his palm, a mosaic of wind farms, new lakes from tapped aquifers, and rows of solar arrays. He helped build. But tonight his attention is on an invisible map etched in encrypted code, the labyrinth below his feet. A network of corridors stretching for kilometers, filled with technology and ambition. If the world above sees one fuse, he sees whole ignited circuits of change far across the ridge. The entrance to that labyrinth pulses with quiet life. A ring of solar panels and satellite dishes flank a crude security wall, looking almost fragile against the vast plain. To the trained eye, the lights signal a thriving hive of clandestine activity. Traoré remains vigilant, aware that watchers must be present above as well. For every secret in the desert, there is a satellite in the sky listening. He flips a switch on the device embedded in his arm. The glow from the display disappears. Near silent, he melts back into darkness. Traoré's mind drifts to childhood stories. His grandparents once told him how, during colonial days, armored trucks had rolled through these lands, carrying away soil and stories to distant continents. French paratroopers knocked on villagers' doors at midnight demanding allegiance. Fields that were once rich with millet and cotton were plowed for the profit of others. Now he stands in the very place where the hum of distant foreign bases used to sneak into the horizon. Back then, rebels only had dreams. Tonight he intends to bring them to life. Dawn is hours away when the first convoy arrives. At the base entrance, the cool night air shimmers under a half moon. Engines drone low and hushed. Dust yawns into the air as armored vehicles settle in a circle. Engineers file out, their faces lit by the pale silver of the moon and the flickering screens inside their gear. Among them is Dr. Jean-Paul Leclerc, a French-born biologist with eyes full of fierce conviction. He leads the team working on autonomous irrigation systems devices designed to seek water and nurture it anywhere in the Sahel. His lab coat is already smudged with sand and solder. Behind Jean-Paul comes Aisha Okonkwo, an agronomist from Nigeria, carrying a messenger bag crammed with data tablets and notebooks. Strands of her braided hair reflect the moonlight. For months, she coaxed data from the desert's patterns, programming AI models to predict rainfall and guide seeds to places where none dared grow before. Tonight, she pushes a small rotorcopter that hums like a curious insect, ready to scan. The sands for moisture. Signals clear, she murmurs, blinking at the screen on her wrist device. Everything's green. We can start the mapping drones. Beside them walk Heinrich Weiss, a former East German missile engineer with hands hardened by welding torches, and Clara Rojas, a Spanish cryptographer who literally speaks in tongues of code. Heinrich carries a metallic sensor prototype for their autonomous defense grid, his fingers tracing over the gadget as if blessing it. Clara already has her laptop open, fine-tuning encryption keys for a new phase of communication satellites. The four converse in a mix of Hausa, Spanish, German, and more, but all about one subject: protecting the future. The corridor beyond the blast doors is vast and silent. Heavy doors magnetized shut behind the arrivals with a metallic hiss, and The recycled air fills their lungs cool, perfumed faintly with ozone. A system of lights above simulates daylight, pulsing with a dim sunrise glow. Tracks in the ceiling carry robotic supply carts, gliding on silent wheels. Aisha runs a hand. Along the smooth wall, half afraid and half comforted by how real it feels. It is as if the earth itself has folded open to shelter these people from above, deeper still, in a cavern as massive as a concert hall. Banks of terminals and screens glow with the hush of possibility. This is the nerve center, the grid room. Enormous wings of metal and circuit boards arch overhead like the ribs of some cybernetic beast. Engineers and scientists of every race and creed hover at desks, their faces blue tinged by monitors. This motley crew is connected not by origin, but by mission, to reshape how Africa survives and thrives. Data streams from across the continent. Weather patterns, satellite imagery, village reports, all flowing into one encrypted brain. Aisha navigates to her workstation. On one monitor, an animated map of Africa flickers with hotspots of drought. Lines of Python and C++ cascade down her screen. They've mapped the whole Sahara, she murmurs. If this AI teaches itself right, soon they could anticipate dust storms before they form and guide nomads around them. Every byte we send through these fiber links feeds the next harvest, she says, as if comforting the circuits themselves. She types a command. An encrypted file leaps to a transfer protocol. On her display, a simulated network of autonomous pump drones activates, poised to circulate life through the parched ground. A metallic click sounds behind her. Miriam Koulibaly, the lab chief of technology, enters at a brisk pace. Miriam is from Burkina itself. She left a comfortable life in Paris to return home to this cause. She has a slim but commanding presence. The limp in her walk from an old battlefield wound gone unnoticed beneath her confidence. Telepresence from Kuluba Palace, she announces. Across the holo screens, the president's formal study appears. Traore himself sits in an antique chair, arms folded, listening as if each word were a spark. Across the secure link, Traore leans forward and speaks quietly. Miriam taps her tablet and the holographic display shifts. Before them now are entwined images of devices, solar reflectors, wind turbines, microreactors, cables connecting villages to the grid. A translucent overlay covers the whole Sahel, bright emerald veins where power flows, dark red where poverty persists. We hold this line as long as we draw breath, Traore says almost under his breath. The team watches, clinging to every pixel. They remember marketplaces without lights, wells that ran dry. This line on the map means electricity in Ouagadougou, internet signals in Niamey, health clinics warm at night in Bamako. Tonight is not just any night. It is the eve of revelation. Traore listens as Miriam explains softly, we've integrated the autonomous defense matrix with our encrypted communications network. When it goes live, even the heavens won't hear us whisper. He nods in understanding. No empire will spy on their signals now. Inside him, a smile cracks. Tonight, the hunters become the hunted, half a world away. Admiral Luc Bennett Picard in Paris leans back in a high-backed chair. On the TV, a reporter rattles off rumors about a shadow project in Burkina. The Admiral flicks the TV off. He taps his secure phone, a direct line to the Lize. Sir, Traore is more than talk, he reports, eyes on satellite maps. It looks like a full-scale underground city. He hangs up before the response. Decades ago, Paris pulled strings on this land. Now, Traore pulls a new string that might snap the old puppet networks back in Coro. Within the sterile silence of the bunker, Aisha's console chirps an alert. The fusion core chamber, encased behind glass, flickers with a ripple of crimson. She blinks, quickly typing codes. She has seen this before, a sudden thermal pulse. Miriam and Dr. Leclerc converge at her station. Thermal spike, Aisha. Reports calm but tense. The core temperature is rising faster than predicted through the silent network they built. A warning cascades. Emergency protocol. Heartbeats later, the room's hum deepens. Doors in the rock seal with a thunderous resonant boom. On every terminal, an alert. Power grid isolating. Auxiliary modules engaging. The air smells faintly of ozone as backup systems roar to life. The engineers spring into trained action. Aisha keying override codes. Jean, Paul monitoring. The containment fields, Miriam coordinating diagnostics. A moment passes that feels like eternity. Then, a distant rumble rocks the entrance corridor. In the underground comm center, Colonel Ibiso's voice crackles over an open line. Sir? Drone incursion from the south. Mercenary pattern even as he speaks. Golden sparks light up the corridor monitors the crew's defense drones taking flight. On the surface outside, a hired drone had tried to jam the site's fences. It was immediately detected and swatted. Away by their own counter-drone. Traore grips his chair's edge, watching the feeds. His smile is grim as the sensor readings normalize. The spike was a false alarm triggered by the jammers. The core's safety algorithms had already corrected. The flux. The base's heartbeat steadies. Crisis averted. Aisha exhales, sinking back into her chair. Not today, she whispers to herself. They had prepared for sabotage for precisely this kind of intrusion. Outside the bunker, the wind shifts, carrying the empties of the thwarted drone toward. The horizon, the world beyond, is stirring. In Ouagadougou, the Ministry of Defense stirs before dawn. The defense minister, a stoic former paratrooper named Sankara, reads a report on his tablet about unusual energy signatures from Burkina's north. The foreign minister stands beside him, both with heavy eyes. Sankara taps the screen. If Traore controls energy and communications across the Sahel, he says quietly, that undermines every old alliance we have. The foreign minister agrees that this is not just a local story, it's global. In Washington, an analyst in. The Pentagon's Situation Room leans over a 3D map of Africa. A point blinks on Burkina's border. It might be a reactor, not a base, he says to his colleague. Another whispers this could redraw the map of influence. A senator's aide flicks through intelligence briefs titled Burkina Lab Project. A covert drone, ostensibly on weather patrol, wings across the sky near Niger. Its high-resolution camera feeds flicker as something in its sensor catches the wake of the base's encrypted network. It can't penetrate the signal, only map its shape. In Brussels, an ECO's intelligence email pops up on a minister's screen. Sue's Sultan. Traore bunker. They wonder if they should tell no one, or everyone, inside Koro's silence. A young officer from Mali named Mariama Diallo sips coffee and watches her monitor. Suddenly, she notices an unfamiliar call log originating from Tehran to a Burkina number. She frowns. An ally of an ally is reaching out, silent code. She jots a note, foreign interest rising. Traore stands away from the map now, torn by the sounds of the world he's offending. He lifts a hand. No country will tell us what. To build on our own soil, he murmurs to the dark. There are voices out there writing about him in rooms whose light he can't see. Tonight, he won't be a bystander. Without warning, Colonel Ibiso's voice crackles again. Unidentified convoy approaching from the south. Possibly mercenaries or special forces. Every head snaps up as the infrared feeds trace a vehicle. Line on the sand, armed men moving toward the gate at speed. Isaac, a Nigerian defender, shouts into his comm. Drones away! 15 sleek black drones catapult from hidden hatches in the ceiling, vanishing up. On the ground, the convoy pauses. They are not cloaked. Their silhouettes are militia, not soldiers. Traore remains calm, though each second weighs heavy. He whirls to a control panel. Across the screen, schematics of the bunker blink. Initiate lockdown, he orders. With authority, he triggers. The emergency blast doors to seal. The convoy's headlights bounce off walls of sand and steel, but the path to the inner sanctum is cut. He knows that once they breach, these people want more than data. Meanwhile, outside, the convoy hesitates. In the cab of the lead truck, uniforms flunk a man in sunglasses who didn't expect resistance. The sound in the desert changes a high-pitched whine as the drones converge. The convoy's wheels spin. Someone yells, "Retreat! Retreat!" Engines roar in reverse. Without casualties, without shots, the saboteurs withdraw into the dunes. The lab's systems unlock. Heartbeats later, silence returns underground. Traore exhales. No more surprises. We draw our line. He repeats from the experience. We set our terms below ground. The engineers exchange relieved glances. Above ground, somewhere in the sky, one mercenary drone escapes with its secrets. But all major systems are intact. The silent revolution continues far below the dunes. In the vast belly of the project, rows of lights begin to dim and glow in. Waves. The AI networks shift their load to survive the strain. In the data center, a Nigerian coder named Chipo leans back. Her eyes are red from hours of monitoring. On a console, she sees the map of Burkina's villages light up as each local radio. Beacon checks in unimpeded. At least they were right about one thing. The network breathes on its own now. Later that night, near midnight, diplomats in Bamako, Niamey, and Accra huddle over burner phones. There are rumors of something unusual at the border and calls to keep calm. But their faces show a too. Could West Africa be on the verge of its own technological spring? As dawn begins to outline the dunes, Traore feels the first chill of anticipation. He watches the eastern sky. Somewhere a muezzin begins prayer in a village. He knows his rivals remain unsettled. For years, Burkina stood at the edge of the Sahara. Today, it is at the edge of history. At last the unveiling day arrives, and it brings with it radiant heat and unsettled nerves. A convoy of 20 vehicles snakes along a dusty track toward the site as golden sunlight breaks over the horizon. Journalists from every part of the world crouch under camouflaged shelters on a nearby ridge. They hunch over laptops and cameras, an electronic reef of lenses. And microphones. CNN crews sit side by side with African broadcasters and independent bloggers, all wired to capture something that doesn't officially exist. There is tension in the air stakes that range far beyond the Sahara, just behind the press. A line of tribal elders stands watch. Some wear turbans and carry ancient staffs. They have been guardians of these lands for generations. Delugo of the Mosi murmurs in more. Our ancestors fight with us, they paid to be here, and yet they arrived of their own accord, curious to see if the legends are true. The sun catches the silver thread in a neighbor's turban. Under their gaze, the horizon is alive. Opponents and allies alike observe now, from great risk. At the last moment, 2 black helicopters descend to drop off reinforcements and unspoken precaution. Traore steps from the shadows into the morning. Light, flanked by Miriam and Aisha, their uniforms topped with colorful shawls signifying unity. On either side are Heinrich, Clara, and the rest of the international crew, Americans and Chinese who turn coat, Russians consulting by satellite, Swedes who contributed their social network algorithm. They form a circle under the African sky. A mosaic of faces lit by resolve. Beside them stand a small group of diplomats, a former ECOWAS envoy now representing tech partners, a few generals who came to witness. All are sworn to secrecy, yet now about to become witnesses to history, Traore raises one hand to shield his eyes from the sun. Solar panels beside him gleam like shards of glass among the sand. Military engineers attach cameras to drones that hover overhead, a swarm of mechanical eagles gathering evidence. He grasps the medal on his chest. It's not a foreign decoration, but a handmade insignia he had forged, a rising sun enclosed by hands. In his other hand is the staff he always carries, carved with ancestral symbols. It grounded him in identity and purpose. For a long moment, no one speaks. Even the wind pauses out of respect. Then Traore begins to speak, voice amplified by a small portable array. This day is about the promise of our people. He proclaims quietly in French, switching fluidly between Moor and Dagara so everyone will understand. Cameras whirl, capturing his every word from drones above, from Steadicam crews, from satellites. We have been underestimated, he continues, eyes scanning the collective gaze of the world. For too long, our wealth lit foreign industries while our own villages lived in darkness. Today that ends. We show you what self-reliance can achieve. The future of our Sahel is not dictated by others, but written by our own hands. A murmur ripples among the reporters. This isn't what any had predicted. Behind Traore, the crowd holds its breath as two massive doors built into a rocky hillside begin to rumble open. Cameras freeze at the spectacle, the heavy steel wall, sliding aside, revealing the hidden entrance. Framed by the opening is a sleek metallic control hall, bathed in the glow of monitors. It is like Pandora's box cracked into daylight. A wave of astonishment washes over the journalists. The TV feeds cut to the shot, miles of desert plain interrupted by a city's worth of infrastructure. Now Traore gestures. Miriam and Aisha raise a coil of thick fiber optic cable, stretching it out proudly between them. Our network, they shout to the watching cameras. From here on it belongs to us. Behind them, a portable fusion reactor sits ready outside the entrance, cables spiraling like roots from a glowing sphere. On cue, the engineers align solar mirrors that have unfurled. Like mechanical petals, each mirror catching the sun's rays and beaming them into a lattice of crystal cells. The crowd gasps as a strip of streetlights along a model roadway flicker to life before their eyes linked wirelessly to the reactor. They click on one after another until the village model glows. Villagers at the far end of the world, hooked to the same network, witness themselves in flickering pictures of night that no longer scares them. He steps forward to address the cameras directly, the midday sun forming a halo around him. The days of darkness end here, he says firmly, voice carrying far. We have given voice to the silent land. For centuries, our people's blood and our soil's wealth fed distant capitals while our children studied by firelight. No more. Our people will no longer flicker in candlelight. Instead, we will shine like these solar panels above us. Our children will not be beggars under foreign skies, but heirs to their own future. The power that once enslaved us now powers us. All over Africa and beyond, the world hears those words in every language he spoke. On the edge of the Sahara, two robotic falcons, autonomous surveillance drones painted green and gold, take off together from the base and perform a synchronized flight over the crowd, symbolizing their new sovereignty in the sky. This sight and Traore's speech go viral instantly. As he speaks, the display screens behind him light up, showing real-time data streaming across a map of the Sahel. Green lines pulse along Burkina's borders and beyond, encrypted data linking Bamako to Bissau, Dakar to Khartoum. In one corner of the map, a real-time feed from a child's bedroom in Ouagadougou pops up. The light bulb in that room flips on as they speak. The crowd on the ridge breaks into applause that resonates. Across the dunes, then, the journalists pounce with questions. A Reuters reporter asks sharply, "General, with these advances, are you aiming to challenge foreign powers or simply advance your people?" Traore turns, choosing his words carefully. We do not aim to challenge, he replies. We aim to empower. We build not to conquer others, but to liberate our own potential. We have no designs on others' lands. Instead, we reclaim our land's wealth for our future, ending the cycle of aid and dependency. His answer spreads across international wires. Another reporter asks about defense. He points to the swarm of standing drones. This network safeguards the skies and land. It ensures that no one outside can silence us. In taking charge of our own destiny, we welcome cooperation, but on equal terms. Behind the journalists, screens now show footage relayed from the bunker's sensors, images of powered wells in villages, of farmers checking their crop yields on mobile devices, of doctors video conferencing with distant specialists. A BBC correspondent whispers to her team, "It's like he built a whole secret nation under the desert. Across the globe, reactions ignite." In Lagos, people cheer on radio talk shows. In Kinshasa, students dance to a recording of Traoré's speech. In Paris, the president watches, pale. We must recalibrate, he grits out during a live press conference. Social media hashtags climb. Hashtag SIL revolt. Hashtag African light dot. Western. Pundits scramble. Some whisper about a new African bloc, others dismiss it as a stunt. But even global skeptics find themselves scrolling through Traoré's words on their screens. Deep in the bunker, the crew opens a bottle of wine. Heinrich raises a glass. For Africa, he toasts with a grin. For finally writing our own story, Aisha sips, eyes shining with quiet pride. Outside, the dunes crackle with the dawn sun's promise as night falls once more on the Sahel. Koro itself glows like a distant city. Traore slips back to the ridge to look once more at the lights below. He is tired but resolute. In that quiet hour, he allows himself the satisfaction that history has shifted. The earth around him seems to sigh softly in the warm breeze as, if relieved the secret has been told. In the capital and beyond, men and women pack up their gear, buzzing with the footage they will have. Discussions will go on for months. How Burkina achieved this, which alliances shift, what new age dawns in the desert. But up here, where the dunes roll on forever, Traore and those with him do not celebrate. They just watch as the sunrise spills. Gold over the hidden city they built. In those uncounted sands, a new light has been kindled for Africa's future, and nothing will ever be quite the same again.